Welcome to the assembly video for Nerf Arcade, presented by Raw Thrills. You are going to need the following required tools: a 6-foot ladder, nut drivers or wrenches, including 5/16, 3/8, 2 7/16, and metric 13mm. You will also need screwdrivers for tamper-proof Torx, T25 and T27, as well as for Phillips and slotted screws. Alternatively, feel free to use a power drill, as you will see in this video. Lastly, it is important that you follow the instructions provided in the game manual, which include warnings for ladder safety and line cord usage. Now, let's get started with the LCD stand. Locate the universal LCD mount. Loosen the screws securing the clips and hanger brackets to the horizontal bracket with a 5/16 nut driver or slotted screwdriver until they slide off. Locate the upper half of the LCD stand and 4 sets of 3-inch long, 1/4-20 hex head screws, washers, and lock nuts to attach the horizontal bracket. Install 2 screws through the upper holes on the horizontal bracket through the 6th highest hole on the front side of each tube. Install washers and lock nuts on the back side of tubes and hand tighten. Install the other 2 screws through the lower holes on the bracket and through the tubes. Once again, hand tighten washers and lock nuts on the back side of the tubes. We will tighten fully after attaching the upper half to the lower half of the LCD stand. Place the lower half of the LCD stand in the final desired location and remove 2 bolts, washers, and nuts already attached to the tube joiner brackets on each side using 2 7/16 nut drivers. You will remove 4 sets of hardware in total. Install the upper half into the tube joiner brackets of the lower half. Then, reinstall the previously removed hardware through the joiner brackets and tubes on each side. First, hand tighten washers and nuts until all have been installed. Now, fully tighten using 2 7/16 nut drivers. After that, fully tighten the horizontal bracket using a 3/8 inch nut driver on screws on the front side and a 7/16 nut driver on lock nuts on the rear side. Now it's time to hang the monitor. Safely remove the Samsung monitor from box and lay face down on a flat surface. Remove the clips from the hanger brackets. Locate 4 45mm long metric 8 hex head screws and 4 washers. Also locate the VESA mount spacers supplied with the Samsung monitor and install the spacers into the mounts on the rear surface. Install the hanger brackets using the 3rd highest hole and the lowest slot with supplied screws and washers. After hand tightening screws, use metric 13mm nut driver to tighten the hanger brackets. Once tightened, the hooks of the hanger brackets can be hung on the horizontal bracket mounted to the stand. Once the monitor is hung, center the monitor using the symmetric holes of the horizontal bracket for reference. Install the securing clips using the previously removed screws. Tighten the 2 outer screws first on each clip. Tighten the centermost screw on each clip, which should pass through a hole on the lower flange of the horizontal bracket. This will fully secure the monitor centered in place. Next up is the monitor bezel. First, locate the 4 corner brackets with the 3M VHB tape attached to the inner surfaces. Be sure to remove the tape's protective film before installing brackets. Install the corner bracket in the top corner of the monitor by aligning the front flanges to be flush to the monitor front and firmly pressing the tape onto the monitor's top and side edges. Repeat the process until all 4 corners have been installed and firmly secured. Please note that it will take 24 hours for the tape to reach maximum strength. Locate these 3 blue bezel parts, identified by their part numbers, as well as 6 3/4 inch long 1032 tamper-proof screws and washers and a T25 screwdriver. Please note that all monitor bezel screws are packaged in the same bag, and these are the longer ones. Install the upper base panel, part 1705, centered along the top edge, installing 2 screws and washers through the outermost slots into the upper corner brackets with a T25 screwdriver. Install the right base panel, part 1706, centered along the right edge using 2 screws and washers through the outermost slots into the corner brackets. Install the left base panel, part 1707, on the opposite side. Locate 4 center brackets with VHB tape attached. As before, remove the film before installing. Install the first center bracket on the right side of the monitor so that the flanges are flush to the monitor front and the pen nut on the bracket is viewable through the slot in the panel. Securely press into place. Install another center bracket on the left side. Then install 2 center brackets along the top edge behind the upper bezel panel at inner slot locations. Once these 4 brackets are installed, secure the panels to these brackets using the supplied 1/2 inch long screws and washers. Remove the 2 screws and washers from the upper right corner and install the upper right cap panel, part 1709, reusing these screws. Repeat this process for the upper left corner to install the upper left cap panel, part 1710. Locate the lower base panel, part 1708, and install along the lower edge with 2 3/4 inch long screws and washers into the lower corner brackets. Install the last 2 center brackets along the bottom edge. Then install 2 1/2 inch long screws and washers. Now remove the 2 screws and washers from the lower right corner and install the lower right cap panel, part 1711, reusing these screws. Repeat this process for the lower left corner to install the lower left cap panel, part 1712, to complete the bezel. Next, we will install the lower signs. Locate the large lower sign panel and 2 cinch brackets shown here, as well as 4 1-inch long 1/4-20 tamper-proof screws, washers, and lock nuts. Puncture the holes in the lower sign panel on the decal side, and use screws and washers to install 2 cinch brackets with lock nuts on the rear side of the panel. The retaining flanges of the cinch brackets should be positioned toward the outer edge of the panel. Hand tighten these nuts for now, as they will be fully tightened once the sign is installed between the tubes below the monitor. Wedge the lower sign in between the tubes and just above the welded lower tube supports attached to the stand base. Using a T27 screwdriver in front and a 7/16 nut driver in back, fully tighten the cinch brackets to hold the lower sign in place. Use 4 more screws, washers, and lock nuts to install the other 2 cinch brackets to retain the lower sign to the other tube. Locate the lower sign bracket and 2 screws and washers and install as shown. Install the angled lower panel using the remaining 3 screws and washers and attach to the lower sign bracket. It's now time to mount the marquee, so set up your ladder at the rear of the stand assembly. Loosen the 4 nuts holding the cinch brackets to the back of the marquee with a 7/16 nut driver before sliding the marquee onto the upper tubes. If your marquee doesn't slide down this easily, loosen these 2 screws and nuts in addition to the cinch bracket nuts on the back of the marquee until it slides all the way down onto the cross tube. Once the marquee is in place, go back and tighten any and all screws and nuts that were loosened. Locate the marquee power supply and supplemental line cord. Peel the protective film from the 3M dual lock adhesive pads and stick the power supply to the cross tube. Connect the power supply to the marquee connector and plug in the line cord to the power supply. You can also plug in the monitor's power cord at this time. The stand is now complete. Lay the included cord cover strip on the floor in front of the stand and through the access way on the angled lower panel. The HDMI cable to the monitor and the line cord for the cabinet will be installed in the center channel when the setup is complete. Place the control cabinet in front of the stand. We recommend the distance between the back door and the lower sign be 17 to 29 inches for standard operating depth. Locate 2 cabinet connecting brackets and 6 2-inch long 1/4-20 tamper-proof screws, lock washers, and flat washers. Install the brackets into the inner channels of the control cabinet on each side with a T27 screwdriver. Do not tighten the screws fully until the pedestal cabinet is fully connected. Place the pedestal cabinet in front of the control cabinet and complete both harness connections. Tuck excess slack of harness into the cabinet to prevent crushing and push the pedestal cabinet onto the connecting brackets. Install 6 remaining 2-inch long screws and washers into the cabinet connecting brackets through the holes on the pedestal sides and tighten fully with a T27 screwdriver. Install 2 remaining 1.5-inch long screws and washers through the holes in the pedestal cabinet floor into a bracket on the front of the control cabinet. To finalize the assembly, plug the cabinet line cord, located in the game bag of the control cabinet, into the AC plate inlet and feed through the center channel of the cord cover. Find the HDMI cable inside the back door of the cabinet and feed through the hole in the base of the cabinet. Then through the cord cover to be plugged into the HDMI 1 port of the monitor. Go to page 21 of the game manual and follow the instructions to complete the monitor settings setup and power up your game. We hope you found this assembly video useful. If you need further technical support, contact the Raw Thrills Technical Support Hotline at 1-800-753-2513, or you can email your questions to rtsupport@betson.com. You can also contact your local distributor.